Do you know how obsessed with black people and racism you gotta be to be out here talking about Derek Chauvin in 2026? Do you know how obsessed you gotta be? What, you watched the Kevin Hart roast and decided this was your moment? Shout out to all the subscribers and the members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. My name is Reese Waters, and this is Racist of the Week. We expose the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And of course, if you have any nominees, you can drop them in the comments. You can email me at admin@reesewaters.com. Well, the good news is that the Slush fund is dead. That's good news. No, y'all don't need to file them claims no more. No. Well, you knew when they got all them claims from black people, they were gonna kill it. You know they wasn't gonna let us have nothing. No, that's the good news. That is the good news. The bad news, y'all know this administration and this president, you know he wasn't done trying to help out his people. A convicted January 6th rioter who later said he regretted his participation in the U.S. Capitol attack has been hired by the Trump administration to work inside a Pentagon office that manages highly classified military operations. Highly classified military operations. But they didn't do the due diligence to see that he had regretted his participation? Yeah, that's the background of this administration, for sure. A young man who pleaded guilty in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol and apologized for his foolish actions during what he said was without a doubt one of the most embarrassing days in modern American history now works in the Defense Department. Well, if he's embarrassed, imagine how they gonna look giving him a gig when they read these headlines. Foolish. That was the only accurate thing he said. Elias Irizarry is a qualified, patriotic young professional, and we're proud to have him as a political appointee, said acting Pentagon Press Secretary Joel Valdez. Irizarry was a 19-year-old student at the Citadel Military College in South Carolina at the time of the riot. The Citadel? Ain't that Nancy Mason's school? I guess one in, one out, huh?
This January 6th rioter just landed a counterterrorism job at the Pentagon. During the riot, Elias Irizarry, who was 19 at the time, entered the Capitol by climbing through a broken window while holding a metal pole. Inside, he was photographed in a private conference room before making his way to the rotunda and climbing onto a statue of Ronald Reagan. In 2022, Irizarry pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor trespass charge and was eventually pardoned by President Trump. The job Irizarry was just hired for is in the Special Operations and Low Intensity Conflict Office. His section handles things like embassy security, personnel recovery, and hostage rescue, which requires a top-secret security clearance. The acting Pentagon press secretary has said that Irizarry is a, quote, qualified, patriotic young professional.
Federal prosecutors presented images of Irizarry entering the Capitol through a broken window while he held a metal pole and making his way into a conference room before he entered the rotunda. Irizarry joined the mob for many hours. After he armed himself with a metal pole, he watched as rioters violently assaulted officers who were trying to make their way through the crowd. He then climbed scaffolding to reach the Upper West Terrace and encouraged and directed rioters by excitedly waving rioters up the stairs to gain access to the building, this according to prosecutors in court documents. He pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge of entering and remaining in a restricted building or grounds and was sentenced to 14 days behind bars. Irizarry apologized for his actions in a 5-page letter to U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkin, telling her he had brought great shame upon myself, my family, and unfortunately, my country. All right, maybe a second accurate thing. Maybe a second accurate thing. That was good. I've come to appreciate through all of this how fortunate we are to have a stable government, he wrote. President Trump pardoned Irizarry alongside hundreds of other January 6 defendants on his first day back in office in 2025. Now, you may think that we have already secured, just with that evidence, enough to bolster a resume that would earn one a position inside the Department of Defense, but no, there's more. When the FBI searched his phone, they discovered a gap of data between January 1st, 2021 and January 8th, 2021, which suggests that Irizarry deleted information from his cell phone pertaining to his involvement on January 6th. The Post reports that DoD staff have raised alarm about Irizarry's appointment and question how anyone convicted in the assault on American democracy could be trusted for such a sensitive role in the U.S. government. They were forced to voice these concerns anonymously because the administration has a reputation for vindictive retribution against anyone who speaks out against regime decisions. You know, like the decision to demonize anybody who says they're against fascism.
Just a heads up, if you're against fascism, the Trump administration apparently now thinks that you're a part of a violent extremist group. This is from the White House's new counterterrorism strategy document that was released earlier this month. You can find this part on page 5, literally from the official whitehouse.gov website. Under the current 3 major types of terror groups, it explicitly lists violent left-wing extremists, including anarchists and anti-fascists. Anti-fascists, as in against fascism. Pause for a second and think about how truly, genuinely insane that is. This is a national security document signed by President Trump, and it reads more like a conspiracy theorist boomer's 2 a.m. all caps Facebook rant about Antifa and the woke agenda. Just to reiterate that, if you are against fascism, your own government now classifies you as a terror threat. And before anyone twists this, obviously violence is bad. But most normal people are anti-fascist. World War II was literally fought against fascism. And the craziest part is how vague this is. Because what actually counts as anti-fascist in this context? Is it someone protesting, someone organizing, someone criticizing fascism online? Which, by the way, are all rights protected by the Constitution. We should all be concerned about this because vague labels like this can be used against pretty much anyone. And historically, once governments start labeling people who speak out as threats, it becomes way easier to justify surveillance, censorship, crackdowns, all of it. And funnily enough, it makes no mention of far-right extremist groups. I wonder why that is. This is deeply, deeply disturbing. And regardless of your politics, this should concern you. Because once this kind of rhetoric starts being normalized, things can get bad very quickly.
But this is how they move. Right. Okay. Now, this is coming to light the very same week that we see Bill Pulte, with no experience in intelligence, being tabbed to head the DNI. This is part and parcel and par for the course when it comes to this administration. But it's not just his lack of qualifications for this job. It is how different transgressions are treated. So this man was convicted of an assault on our Capitol, on our government, and gets a job at the Department of Defense. Had the president trying to secure a slush fund so he could put money in their pockets. And when he couldn't do that, gave them a gig. And what was that fund called? It was an anti-weaponization fund, right? Because these, in fact, are victims. Victims, you say?
Person would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society. Please stand. You didn't understand the direction. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
And shout out to Jane Elliott for that. Posing a question I've posed right here many times. Why don't we evaluate the other side of the tracks now, shall we? Because around the same time as I got that, I received this email from one of our viewers, Mr. Reese I am Mother Denise in Richland County, South Carolina. Our state's capital county is in real trouble. One of our biggest voices is a black journalist named Javar Juarez. I think sending you this video is probably the best way to understand what is going on. There's no justice, it seems, and our children are furious.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Today, a Richland County jury found Rick Chauvin not guilty in the shooting death of 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack-Belton, bringing an end to one of the most closely watched criminal trials in South Carolina in recent years.
We lost a child, a 14-year-old boy.
What happened? $1, bro. $1. They took a life for $1.
No justice, no peace. Dead home in 60.
The verdict has immediately sparked outrage. We are here at 7441 Park Lane Road where the shooting occurred, and the outrage has spread across Columbia and across social media, where many residents have expressed grief, anger, and disbelief over the outcome. For nearly 3 years, the question of what happened on that summer evening in June 2023 has weighed heavily on this community. We heard from Representative Jermaine Johnson, candidate for governor, who had this to say.
Hey y'all, this is Representative Jermaine Johnson. I just released a statement about the verdict that we heard about Rick Chauvin being found not guilty. My son knew Cyrus, they were friends, and this is a sad tragedy that happened to a kid. This all could have been avoided had Mr. Chauvin just stayed in his store and notified law enforcement, but unfortunately he didn't, and now we have a 14-year-old who does not get to learn from her mistakes, does not get to grow up. Praying for young Cyrus and praying for the family, and let's just support the family.
Following the decision, family attorney and South Carolina House Minority Leader Todd Rutherford delivered remarks that captured the pain many in the community are feeling tonight.
What's clear is that black people in 2026 have a long way to go. The question kept coming up, why does a 14-year-old need a gun? The question was answered when he was shot dead in the streets 130 yards from a store where he did absolutely nothing wrong. The question was answered when this jury found him not guilty today. The question was answered because a child, a 14-year-old child shot dead in Richland County, got no justice.
Now, Mother Denise, thank you so much for your email, and I did, in fact, look into what was going on. We do not accept it. Family reacts to acquittal in fatal shooting of 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack-Belton. The family of Cyrus Carmack-Belton expressed their indignation towards a South Carolina jury's decision on Tuesday to acquit Chicky Rick Chauvin in the 2023 fatal shooting of the black 14-year-old. Yesterday, a jury watched our 14-year-old boy run away from two grown men on video. They knew one of them shot him in the back, and they still said no one is to blame, the family said in a statement released to ABC News. We are heartbroken. We do not accept it. Cyrus stole nothing. He was a child, and he was running for his life. Our son mattered. Chauvin, a 61-year-old store owner, shot the 14-year-old in the back outside his Columbia, South Carolina store in May 2023. He and his son were seen chasing Carmack-Belton outside the store in video, leading to the incident. Chauvin was charged with murder and denied bond multiple times before his acquittal. Well, that doesn't add up now, does it? Prosecutors allege that Chauvin acted out of a false belief that Carmack-Belton had shoplifted 4 bottles of water from his store. The defense claimed that Chauvin acted to protect his son after allegedly seeing Carmack-Belton point a gun at him. Video obtained by ABC News shows that Carmack-Belton returned the bottles of water in question and did not steal anything from the store. A 9mm pistol was found next to Carmack-Belton, with prosecutors saying it was in his possession during the chase and had fallen to the ground at some point. So let me get this straight. He didn't shoplift anything. So if I'm going to take the defense at their word, what would have been his reason to point the gun at his son if he didn't take anything? And furthermore, you clearly have video footage and surveillance all throughout the store, and how is it that you have none of him pointing a gun at anyone? But of course, because you say so is enough to get off when black life is on the line.
If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here.
Chow, who had a history of shooting at customers, chased down a 14-year-old who hadn't stolen anything, shot him in the back, then had his son lie about having a gun pointed at him. It worked because black people's lives aren't worth even a $1 water bottle in this country. So if you're one of those people who like to say, well, all lives matter, just know you're lying to yourself and you know it. A history of shooting at customers? The judge suppressed it so they couldn't talk about it in court, but he shot at 2 other people before, so he's paranoid and trigger happy. That's why he killed a kid over a bottle of water he didn't steal. So let me get this straight. He had shot at 2 other people, and that was considered not relevant to this case? It's pretty on the nose here. It's pretty on the nose, but not so much so as grappling with the fact that Cyrus lost his life because you say, and there is absolutely no accountability. But we want to victimize the people that attack the capital of these United States. That's right. A whole 5 years older as well. And you wonder why we had to take to the streets to assert that our lives mattered. But apparently that wasn't enough. Listen to the moment of silence Minnesota GOP delegates held for Derek Chauvin. You read that right. In 2026, Kendall Qualls, fresh off the endorsement of Republican state delegates this weekend, was forced to brush off questions Monday about one of the first events at the convention Saturday, a moment of silence for Derek Chauvin, the convicted murderer of George Floyd. Christopher Rocco, one of the over 2,000 delegates, called for the 30-second moment of silence for Chauvin, who was convicted of murdering George Floyd in 2020 after kneeling on Floyd's neck and back for over 9 minutes and an arrest over a suspected $20 counterfeit bill. Chauvin is still alive and in prison. Quote, I apologize because I know you've asked me not to do this. I'd like to suspend the rules for a moment of reflection for Derek Chauvin. He says Chauvin should get a retrial and federal pardon for his related civil rights conviction. And just in case you might have thought that was just one guy, going rogue, State Rep Danny Nadeau, who chaired the convention, corrected him and called for a vote. I said I preferred. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put it to the body. I'm going to let the body vote. If you would like to have a short 30-second stand in silence for Derek Chauvin, all say A. A loud A from the crowd. Opposed, quieter nays. That's right. That's downright Trumpian. Just make sure, if you want to go be out of pocket, make sure you take everybody you can with you. Do you know how obsessed with black people and racism you gotta be to be out here talking about Derek Chauvin in 2026? Do you know how obsessed you gotta be? What, you watched the Kevin Hart roast and decided this was your moment? You know how obsessed you have to be. And the level of hustling backwards that this represents, because this man was convicted by a jury of his peers, but you don't respect the verdict, so you want to undermine our criminal justice system out of some attempt to assert your support for police, which apparently knows no bounds. since we got the video of him kneeling on George Floyd's neck. So all this stuff about live free and don't tread on me, small government, pushing back against governmental overreach, you're also willing to throw away just to antagonize black people and show how outwardly racist you can truly be. But because this is 2026, you know it always gets worse. Now, there were some people who thought better of it and tried to back away. Minnesota Republicans distanced themselves from moment of silence for Derek Chauvin at state convention, a moment of silence for Chauvin at the Minnesota Republican Party's endorsement convention Saturday, has party leaders distancing themselves this week after State Attorney General Keith Ellison called it an act of profound cruelty to George Floyd's family. Ah, yes, George Floyd's family. Imagine that. I wouldn't have expected you to consider a black family. I just am pointing out the hypocrisy. Party leadership said it did not support the motion and that it was not a part of the official convention program. According to the statement, the moment of silent prayer was brought forward spontaneously from the convention floor, not proposed by convention chair Danny Nadeau. Party leadership said the moment should not be characterized as an official policy position or platform statement, describing it as a floor action taken by delegates, not leadership. Well, here's the part where you try and back away and disavow just how racist and inhumane this looks. But because that's exactly what it was and was intended to be, even your own people won't allow you to create that distance. We see it with this administration all the time. Minnesota GOP defends Derek Chauvin moment of silence at convention. From House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, it's a sad day in the state of Minnesota when it's so-called news that hundreds of patriotic Minnesotans came together to peacefully and respectfully recognize a member of law enforcement. Now that's interesting. So it's always acceptable to come together and recognize a member of law enforcement. So I would take that to mean that law enforcement is incapable of doing anything that would earn this level of peaceful and respectful recognition, correct? This is just what happens when somebody reaches the rank of law enforcement. So then your recognition isn't actually reflective of his behavior at all, just the fact that he's law enforcement. You're idiots. But there's always more willing to sign up for the Summer Jam screen. Here's Minnesota GOP Alex Plekish, who joined WCCO Radio Monday morning to explain the decision to hold the moment of silence.
We're talking to GOP State Chair Alex Plekish. At one point at the start of this convention, there was a moment of silence for convicted murderer Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of killing George Floyd. As state party chair, what do you think of that?
Well, that came from the body, of course. Didn't come from the dais. And the body elected to have that moment of silence. We had maybe 10 seconds or so. There are a lot of people, I think, that believe that Derek Chauvin was improperly convicted and not treated well. And those people wanted to have a moment of silence and recognition because they felt that way.
Do you agree with them?
Well, I don't think I'm going to comment on that. The court system had its verdict, and I'm not going to challenge the court.
Did you like the fact that a convicted murderer had a moment of silence at your convention?
I don't think I should comment on that.
Why not?
Well, because it indicates whether I do or don't agree with something that came out of the court. So I think I'll just let that pass.
And shout out to host Vanita Soccer for pressing that particular issue. Now, to the point that he made about a lot of people think he was treated unfairly, I have a question.
You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
Any takers? Any takers? It's still pretty quiet out here. We done asked that question multiple, not a single taker. Wow. I mean, the J6ers were victims, Derek Chauvin is a victim, but don't nobody want to trade places. Huh. That's crazy. It's like you know just how wrong-headed and inhumane treatments like that of Cyrus Carmack-Belton's family or George Floyd's truly is. You know.
There is no gene for racism. There's no gene for bigotry. You're not born a bigot. You have to learn to be a bigot. Anything you learn, you can unlearn. It's time to unlearn our bigotry. It's time to get over this thing, and we best get over it pretty soon.
Now, all was not lost. I do have to give some credit where credit is due. Down in North Carolina. North Carolina officer fired over video of violent arrests turns himself in to face assault charge. A former North Carolina police officer who was fired over the weekend turned himself in Monday to face a charge in an excessive force investigation after video showed him repeatedly punching a woman during an arrest. Former Shelby police officer Carson Hyder, 22, has been charged with 1 count of assault, inflicting serious injury. He's expected to make his first court appearance Tuesday morning. He was released on a $10,000 secured bond on Monday. Doorbell video appeared to show Hyder punching the woman, 34-year-old Cherry Moore, in the face several times while also wrestling her to the ground. A second officer then tries to intervene at one point. It's not clear what happened before the video begins. Now, I have seen that video. It is particularly nasty. It appeared that the other officer was aware of how out of pocket his partner was and was trying to mitigate the situation. That was just my impression of it. But let's just grapple with the fact that I have to give credit to the authorities in North Carolina for distancing themselves from an officer we saw on video assaulting a woman. Can we grapple with that? Can we grapple with that? I'm just going to brush past how this might have been handled if there was no video and we just have to take their word for it, as in the case of so many. But in this particular instance, the right thing was done. And I particularly appreciate, and will continue to follow this story through, that there is direct personal accountability. That's right. Charges. Because so many times in cases like these, we brush it under the rug, but we make sure you get a nice little payoff to make you whole, which isn't to say she doesn't deserve it, but why is that coming from the citizens that are being victimized? That would be like having the American people pay the J6 rioters. It would be like that. It would be exactly like that, except we do just that on a smaller scale every single day without the actual accountability for the people that handed us that bill. That's the accountability that's needed. And yes, as we saw in the case of Cyrus Carmack-Belton, even that oftentimes isn't enough. That's why we have to keep that same energy when it comes to cases like this and see them all the way through. But congratulations. The people of South Carolina, the jury, that's the only reason why y'all didn't get a flag back here is because a moment of silence for Derek Chauvin. I mean, the level of obsession. Do we need to take out a restraining order against the GOP? Do we? The obsession is disgusting at this particular point in time. The only contact we want is to hand you this racist of the week. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and special shout out to Marquita, who writes, "Hi Reese, I wanted you to know that you've made a difference in my life by the way you share all the latest content concerning politics and racism. I was never this informed and never knew that in the midst of it, we could also laugh. Thank you and keep doing what you're doing. You're really making a difference." Thank you so much for that, and right back at you. Words like that make a difference as well, and as much as they have tried to take over the course of the past year and change, one thing I refuse to let them take is our joy. And the more of us that can get together in community, the more joy we can create. Shout out to T. Ferris, who writes, Reese, I'm watching the Tim Scott Wants Black People to Know He's Here For Us episode, and we owe it to the Louisiana testifiers to make a shirt. Oh, you mean these Louisiana testifiers? Y'all remember.
You won't say the N-word in front of me.
Come on, down and out.
And I guess you'll taste everything for the ancestors.
Down and out.
One side should say our voices matter, and the other side should say that's adorable. Also, here's a picture of me with my We Still Here Black History Month coffee tumbler. The same two friends received these as gifts because they will always be here with me in my heart, if not in my picture. Now, first of all, shout out to those two friends, and what a fantastic suggestion. And that's one thing you guys have definitely done in the emails and in the comments, is give me a number of suggestions for more merch. Oh, I saw the yearning for Tasty Ancestors, and believe me, that's on the way. And you know what? I could do you one better. How about they about to drag you? Huh? How about they about to drag you? We working on it as we speak. I just have to perfect my they about to drag you face, and then it's on and popping. Now, one thing I did want to talk about is I'm sure you guys have heard from a number of different creators in this space, and especially on this side of the aisle, about perceived efforts to silence resistance. And that is something that I can say, and looking at the performance of my content recently, there's certainly a lot of evidence to that now, isn't there? One thing I did want to say, for the things that we can control, the ways that you guys can help try and spread the word and help amplify the content on this particular channel. Of course, watching the videos, staying through to the end, hitting the like button, sharing the videos when possible, showing up to the premieres, pumping the heart on the side of the premieres, making sure that you're subscribed, and not just subscribe, but turn on those notifications. Yes, that's that bell button. I know y'all heard all about that. Of course, writing me comments and engaging with other people in the comment section is always helpful, as well as following me on my other social medias. I'm at Reese Waters on just about everything other than TikTok. And of course, there's always the merch and sending us photos. And last but not least, there is membership. Huh? Membership is kind of like that big rubber foam that's underneath the people crazy enough to climb up the side of that mountain.
But wait, there's more.
There's two ways of doing that. We have membership right here on YouTube, as well as over on Patreon at patreon.com/Reese Waters. And shout out to each and every one of my members who give me something to bank on, even in those moments when I'm low, because the algorithm is rejecting me like Dikembe Mutombo. But one thing about that whole idea of censorship and silencing, because we sometimes talk about the loud theatrical versions of censorship, like book bans or political grandstanding, billionaires screaming into microphones. But, you know, there's a different kind of censorship that doesn't make the evening news. It's that quiet kind, and I'm sure you guys are very familiar with it, the kind that happens behind closed doors, in email threads, and in creative meetings. It's when people look at your work, look at your voice, and say, we love what you do. We really do, but, you know, you just tone it down a little bit. You know what I mean? Make it a little bit more palatable. Could you talk about the truth, but make it a little bit more comfortable for people to swallow? Oh, and we want this truth, but not that truth. Don't talk about that over there. They want the flavor, but they're terrified of the spice. And let me tell you something, that kind of personal censorship is exhausting, because it forces you into a daily contract with yourself where you have to decide what your integrity is worth. Do you shave off your sharp edges so you can fit into a smooth little box, or do you play nice so you don't lose the platform or the funding or the followers? When you refuse to censor yourself, the pushback isn't always dramatic cancellation. Sometimes it's just a slow, quiet freezing out. The algorithms get a little colder, the rooms get a little quieter, the corporate doors start shutting, and you're left standing there wondering if shouting into the wind is even worth it anymore. You start wondering if maybe you should have just smiled, taken the check, and talked about something safe. But here's the thing I realized about persevering through that silence. Your voice is the only thing they can't actually take unless you hand it over. When people try to censor you, it's not because your words don't matter, it's because they do. It's because your words have weight. We just talked about the Louisiana testifiers, all the efforts that they're making to silence your vote. You can never again make the case that it doesn't matter. They try to mute you because they're terrified of what happens if people actually start paying attention. They want you to think that you're entirely alone shouting into the dark so you eventually just give up and quiet down. That ain't this kind of party. And if you're watching this, I know that ain't the kind of party that y'all throw either.
He's right, you know.
Persevering through your own censorship means realizing that the audience that needs the watered down version of you isn't your audience anyway. It means building your own table when they won't give you a seat at theirs, and it means knowing that the truth might run uphill, but it always gets to the top. So to anybody out there who's being told to tone it down or wait their turn or speak a little softer so you don't wake the neighbors, don't touch that volume knob. Speak louder, write sharper, stay unapologetic. That's why we do this. Because the moment you start censoring yourself to make other people comfortable, you've already let them win. And we didn't come this far to lose. Let me know your experiences in the comments below, and let me know how you push through circumstances like these. Drop your thoughts, hit subscribe, and let's always keep the volume up. I'll see y'all on the next one.